Hi besties! You're currently watching The Vomitorium. You can support the show at www.streamlabs.com/Vomitorium Live. Enjoy the show!
Fantasy is an RPG. The only one that I need. It's the RPG for me. Final Fantasy is all that I play. All other games are lame. It puts them all to shame. I only play games that are popular. I only buy the games the magazines don't need to buy. That way I know I get good games for sure. I may have a shallow mind, but you can't guess my behind. Final Fantasy, it consumes my life, and that is probably why I'll never have a wife. Final Fantasy has awesome music, and that's probably why it always gets remixed. I always buy the soundtrack to each game. Oh, it is the only thing that I will listen to. Oh, sure, one day it may drive me insane. You may think that I'm a fool. Well, I'm here to say it's true. Final Fantasy on PlayStation 2 with music by Nobu and graphics by One Shoe. It is Final Fantasy number 10. Must save the world again, right here from my own den. Hopefully I'll get through the game just fine. I don't know why I continue to play each game. They'll be making these till the end of time. Oh, I guess that I will pay for these new games till Tuesday.
Hi besties! You're currently watching The Vomitorium. You can support the show at www.streamlabs.com/Vomitorium Live. Enjoy the show!
Okay, well, I'm here. Marsupial is late. I think he actually only just got up. Probably passed out after work, I would assume. I was spamming him sleepy faces until he finally responded to me in a text message, so he might be here momentarily, I will assume. But in the meantime, hi everybody, how are you doing? I'll hold the fort until he arrives. But, yeah, I'm gonna give him a moment. Let him actually wake up. I'm in a new location. Hey, there you are. At least I think there you are. Because you're muted. I don't know. I'll still give you a moment to wake up. But as you can see, I am in a different location than I normally am. I'm going to make myself a bit bigger. Moved out to the garage. It's a lot hotter in here, but it's quieter, which is good. For a while, I kind of can be left alone for the most part. Probably won't overhear people yelling or screaming or anything like that. And, you know, it's kind of chill. It's almost like an arcade out here.
Hey.
Hey, there
What's up? I was like, what? Why is my wrist vibrating?
Yeah, dude, I sent you like 9 messages before that were like actual show topics and stuff. And then it was like 2 minutes before we went live, and I just started spamming sleepy faces.
Yeah. Like, what is happening? It was going, you know, it's on my watch. I was like, why is my watch vibrating over and over and over? Oh my God, what time is it? Ah!
We're here.
Well, hey. What's up?
Yeah, a lot of things. Like, look, I'm in a new spot.
I know.
Yeah.
In the garage, is that what you said? Or?
Yeah. The garage, for the most part, it's kind of actually more like a lounge than anything, though I'm in the back half that's kind of in disarray, which is perfectly fine for an office. It makes me feel like I'm back in a warehouse. But look, we got, there's like 1-up machines. There's a pinball one on the other side of that, and there's like Cobra Kai, TV, couches, stuff. It's pretty cool over here.
Cool.
Yeah.
I hope it's not too hot. It's actually cold outside here.
It's pretty hot in here. Let me think. Let me look what it's like outside. I had my fan. Don't worry. It only just got hot in my specific location. I had my fan running the entire time until I switched the mics over. Yeah, it's like 90 degrees outside. It'll cool off though.
Wow. Alrighty. Well, yeah, it's been freezing here. Ugh. Brr.
I wish. It was pretty good for most of the week. I would say it was like in the high 70s, low 80s because of the rain, but that was at the earlier of the week, so all of that's gone. But it's also a change of pace from the fact that, like, in the other room, when the air is working, it's like fucking freezing in there. Though my computer probably likes it a lot more than I do.
Yeah. Well, I guess I did make the mistake of lying down for a minute after work.
Yeah, that'll do it.
That somehow turned into an hour. Yeah, what's on the agenda for today?
Well, the first thing on the agenda is to welcome everyone to the Vomitorium. As always, I am your host, The Metal, and joining me is my half-awake co-host, Marsupial Gamer.
I'm mostly awake.
Yeah, we got a lot of things on the program. Let me pull up my stuff. As you could tell from me spamming topics, there are a lot of possible things to talk about today. One of the things probably interests you the most, in a way, is there is an exploit in Splatoon 3 that is letting players get kills through walls, unintended.
Oh.
And it has something to do with the, like the AoE or the splash damage from the sloshing machine.
Okay.
So the hitbox on it is actually kind of like busted and is extending past walls for the full distance that it's supposed to be doing. Yeah.
I got killed through a wall, but I think it was intentional. There was like a sniper kind of like special weapon that I think goes right through walls.
Yeah.
Kind of
I think I'm familiar with that. Yeah. That's supposed to happen.
But you're not supposed to be able to slosh through walls. Apparently.
Yeah, and it seems to only really work on the lower levels because it's carrying through the floor texture, right?
Oh.
So like the AoE, the full hitbox, if you put it on the ground or like you attack on ground level, it'll carry across the floor to the other side. So if you're like, I don't know, up on a grate or something, you're doing it, doesn't matter. But if you're down on ground level, people are just getting kills through walls.
Wow. What? I'm not even sure. There's so many levels in this game. I'm not sure what is the ground level.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's pretty easy to tell what.
Level.
Yeah. Well, so there's still ground level if you go up a ramp, right? It's as long as you're not on a platform, right? That's the difference. There's the floor and there's platforms. Yeah.
I see what you mean. Okay, so if you're down on the ground anywhere.
Yeah.
All right.
Which, I mean, for the most part, it's always been at a tactical disadvantage to be on ground level in Splatoon. If you can cover territory from up on a platform, you would prefer to. But now it's just giving you even more of a disadvantage because people can just get this easy hit machine.
Is this something, did Nintendo acknowledge this? Or are they going to patch it? Or is it just...
I don't know. This is something that people are just pointing out now. I'm sure Nintendo is probably going to see it.
Yeah.
They're usually pretty keen on this stuff.
Yeah, especially this early on in the game's life cycle. They're pretty vigilant with patches.
Hoping to see as much of this as possible through the free like test play. Like that was like the whole point. Yeah. See if the new mode way of doing Splatfest worked as intended, and to see if some of the new weapons and stuff worked as intended, like a stress test run.
Yeah, well, I heard that a lot of people had trouble getting into the new tricolor mode on Sunday at the Splatfest.
I could see that.
And yeah, like apparently when you tried to do a battle on Sunday, you were there was a chance that you would just have a standard one-on-one versus the tricolor, and apparently it was much more likely to just get the standard one-on-one. And like Nintendo said something like, they'll fix that in the future, I guess.
Well, so like I feel like the only way to fix that is kind of to increase queue times, because if the winning team is winning just by sheer population, like the side people picking that side, which from experience in the old Splatoons, that wasn't the case. A lot of times the underdog would end up winning because of balance issues and stuff like that. But like it'll be easier for the winning team to get into a game because there's more of them in a game, as opposed to like the other two teams where there's only two from each in there. If the teams are even remotely balanced, it's going to be hard to find three-way games for them.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But like even in the old ones, it was, if you were on the higher population team, it was hard to find matches for you. Because like there was less opponents to fight, and that's also why the underdog tend to win, because their people were getting in every single match and the others were.
Oh yeah. Interesting. Yeah, that's a good point.
Actually, this seems like a thing that Nintendo should have seen coming, just by extrapolating from how the old Splatfest worked.
Well, I wonder if that. I mean, I think they did. Isn't that I would think that would be kind of the point of the tricolor matches, because if there was one team that had a higher population than the other two, they would end up, playing alone against the other two.
but I feel like that's an improper extrapolation because that's still thinking of the population offset of having two teams, right? You're introducing a third factor now, right? So now it's this one versus two teams whose numbers are basically being put together, right?
Yeah.
So if the split is even remotely close to even, then the other two teams together are going to be close to twice the size of the winning team.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, you actually kind of have to flip it on its head.
I guess so, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe they anticipated one team would just be way more people would.
Yeah, because I think they were thinking about how the old Splatfests were.
Yeah.
But they didn't bother to consider that, even though this is a three-way, it's still kind of a 1v1 just with two different teams. Like, you have to put the two other teams' numbers together to see how matchmaking would work here.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess that's why a lot of people ended up with just one-on-one matches.
Yeah, and it was probably the two teams that weren't winning were probably getting in one-on-one matches with each other.
Yeah, probably right. But Team Gear won. Huzzah.
Yeah. I think they'll probably find some way, because even with Splat 2, they were pretty good about, like, I don't know, a third into it, about finding fixes for matchmaking. So I'm sure they'll find something.
Yeah. I'm sure it'll get better. But I didn't have any problem, at least on Saturday.
Yeah.
You know, it's some of the wait times seemed a bit long, but I don't know, that might have just been maybe Team Gear did have the most people. I don't know.
Maybe.
It wasn't all that bothersome. It was just, you know, sometimes the wait time was 15 seconds, sometimes it was like 60 seconds. Wasn't too bad. But I think I only got disconnected like one time, and that was between rounds.
Oh, yeah.
Like I saw some people were getting disconnected like right at the end of a round, so it didn't count for them. But I did not have that problem.
In the Wii, Nintendo servers were pretty good for internet, but they were still using GameSpy for their servers at the time. The same with the DS. And then in the Wii U era, Nintendo had like notoriously bad servers for like everything. And even at the start of the Switch, they were still pretty bad, which a lot of people are complaining. It's like, okay, I didn't mind the servers being bad when I got to use them for free, but now I'm paying you money yearly to use your online service. And for the most part, I think they've gotten better. I mean, Smash is still bad, but that's mostly because it's got bad netcode. Most other games, I don't seem to have a problem with online connection. I can play with people in like Mario Kart or whatever online pretty well, as long as my connection's not the problem. So that's good for Splat, because a lot of people take Splat really seriously, and I guess you kind of have to, because it's one of two esports Nintendo actually has.
Yeah, exactly. I think people do take it pretty seriously.
Yeah, especially the Japanese. Oh, man. Just playing in some random Japanese guys day one in either of the Splatoons is horrible, because they had it for like half a day before you, and they were no-lifing that whole day, and they're already like 25 ranks on you, and you're like, what the fuck? And they're just like shooting you down every time you get up. And you're like, okay, I'll see you again in a week after I've had practice time.
Yeah. I do need to probably go over the controls again, or maybe the tutorial, because I realized there are a bunch of new moves they've added that I could not remember how to do. There's like a way to like sort of rocket yourself up a wall and stuff like that. And how do you do that again? Can't remember.
Yeah, notice mobility is a lot higher in this game, which is kind of crazy because it was already a very mobile third-person shooter as it was.
Yeah, I just can't remember how to do some of this stuff.
Yeah.
But plus, I need a lot more better gear. So all the clothing can give you bonuses to run speed and ink, whatever, absorption and that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, I was watching you while you were in the shop, and I've already decided what my strategy is going to be when I play that game. It's going to be
you said
to increase like speed, period, run, swim speed. Like if I can put those on different clothes, I will level those gear up, and then just like take the Splatana and kamikaze dive people. Like that's just the whole goal. If I die, I die, but I'm taking people out with me.
Try and get as close as you can to people and just pop up right next to them and splat them.
Yeah. See, my idea will be, if I'm just making sure everyone is constantly dying, then my team can cover as much territory as possible.
Sounds good. Yeah, I want to try. I haven't tried very many different types of weapons, but I mean, I have in Splatoon 2, but I want to try a roller. Those are always fun. Mostly just a roller.
Roller's fun. Paint buck is pretty fun too, though.
Yeah. Sometimes the charger weapons are cool. I mean, they're pretty powerful, but it's hard to get the hang of them because you gotta remember that in order to shoot, you have to let go of the button instead of squeezing. It kind of goes against your instincts. And I haven't done the new Salmon Run, so I gotta try that out.
Yeah, I was actually reading. What was it? It was in this same article. Somebody was talking about Salmon Run. And trying to see. Yeah, I'm having a hard time finding it again. Let me Control F.
I feel like I should turn on my camera, but I'm afraid it's going to crash Discord.
Data miners have uncovered hints in the game files that more modes may be in the work for Salmon Run. So, it was almost kind of like hinted at that from the trailers that they were going to be doing more with Salmon Run than they had done in the previous game. So,
yeah. There's like this new I can't remember what they called it, but there's just at one point there'll be like an indestructible sort of king boss creature that you can attack or something, just to see how many whatever you call them, eggs that you can get before the end.
Yep. And I don't know. This kind of just seems on par for what I was expecting, because we were talking about it, and it seemed like just what they showed off was kind of light. Like they were barely adding anything. It was like they're probably going to gradually release Salmon Run content because of how popular it was in the last one.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm sure they're aiming for supporting this game for many years.
Yes. At least through the life cycle of this system, which we apparently still have anywhere between 5 to 6 years on, based on the last report.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Wow. How? 5 to 6 years.
It's doing good.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, they're about to release the first Switch exclusive Zelda for it. Coming up soon.
Yes, they are. Which, with its very odd but much more appropriate name than Breath of the Wild 2.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hopefully, the trailer didn't make it seem very Zelda to me. It made it seem very Breath of the Wild to me. But at least from the stuff we were talking about, how it looked like there might be something similar to collecting 7 maidens or sages or whatever, that will actually get a return to form with the dungeons. Because that was the thing I was really missing from the last one. All we got was like 4 beasts and a stealth mission.
Yeah. And even the beasts were like mini dungeons at best.
Yeah.
They were so small. I mean,
I wouldn't
the
even
end.
mind shrines coming back in some form, but it has to just be like an extra thing on top of the fact that dungeons are already there.
Yeah. Yeah, like the DLC kind of added a final dungeon.
Yeah.
Like a 5th divine beast, but even that's pretty lame. Compared to traditional Zelda dungeons.
Honestly, the sword trials were closer to dungeons than most of the stuff that were done in the beasts.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Forgot about the extra shrines they added.
But that reminded me more of like the Cave of Ordeals in Twilight Princess than anything.
Oh, yeah.
Which was fun. They need to bring stuff like that back. Like, I'll shit talk Twilight Princess, but I liked that part of the game. That was a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
It reminded me, what was another game that did that? Paper Mario, the Thousand Year Door did that too. They had like it was like a pit of 1,000 trials or something like that. It was like a 100-floor pit that you go down, and you just fight like different mobs each one, and they got progressively harder. You refought like some boss things or like variants of it, and then like I think the bottom floor of it was like a bone dragon. It's like, because there was a dragon you fought for the very first boss, and there was like a dark version of the dragon you fight before the last boss. But then there's like the third sibling, and it was like a bone dragon at the bottom of the pit. That was fun. I like games that do stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I like the idea. I don't know if this is how it's going to pan out, but I think we briefly talked about the possibility, since they kind of modeled Breath of the Wild after Zelda 1, that it's possible that Tears of the Kingdom could be sort of an homage to Zelda 2.
Yeah.
That would be pretty neat.
Except instead of going underground, it seems like for the most part we're going up. Like there's definitely some underground, but it seems like we're just going up.
Yeah. Well,
Zelda 2 is very much underground.
Zelda 2, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, I guess all the palaces are underground technically.
Yeah, it was really like going downward for the most part.
Yeah.
I feel like it's because they were trying to emulate Metroid in Zelda to some degree, which Metroid had all the elevators that went down.
Right. Well, I mean, best you could say is the Breath of the Wild is like very, an homage to Zelda 1 in spirit, but
yes.
There's also huge differences, obviously. So
Yeah.
even if that is the way that they're going with Tears of the Kingdom, I'm sure it'll be very, very different from Zelda 2.
But if you think about it too, Zelda 1 was very much underground. Like pretty much every dungeon you entered, something on the surface that could not house the dungeon, so it had to just be like a stairway going down, and even kind of made like a stairway sound. And I mean that kind of fits the original Breath of the Wild because all the shrines you did were underground. So
yeah,
I mean I'll check that part off.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see when we see. See when they release it.
Yeah. It does look like elevators will be involved though. For what we've seen, they're just elevators going up.
Yeah, right. But I do like the fact that it kind of looks like with that sort of time reverse magic thing that magic is going to be a bit bigger of a deal.
Oh boy, are we going to turn Link into a fairy?
Yeah, I don't know.
That'd be cool, like an endgame ability, and it just basically lets you free fly around Hyrule for as long as you still have magic.
Yeah. That'd be neat.
It'd be very fitting, too, because that's kind of what most people wanted from DLC for Breath of the Wild, was some way to kind of like free roam Hyrule, but the closest we got was like a motorcycle that you can unlock. It's like, yeah, that doesn't let me fly, though.
Yeah, but I mean, Rivali's Gale almost pretty much breaks the game.
Yeah. To some degree. The thing that stops it from doing it is how long the cooldown is after the third charge.
Yeah. Yeah. But I guess we will see what they got in store for us. They really haven't shown us. I mean, they showed us like 10-second clips.
Yeah.
Like 2 or 3 10-second clips, and that's it.
At least it's better than just showing us a JPEG of a title. Yeah, I'll give them points for that.
Yeah, Bethesda.
I was even gonna say Nintendo, the Metroid Prime 4.
Oh yeah, that too. That's right.
Speaking of Nintendo,
Mm-hmm.
currently they sent out a new survey to fans of the games, and I think anybody can answer. I'm probably going to respond to it if I can after it, and it's basically asking fans what they would like to see in Pokemon. It's a very long survey, but there was one very specific question that caught everybody's attention. And is, which kinds of Pokemon games would you like to play in the future? Please select all that apply. One says a new game similar to Pokemon Go, which is something I would definitely not check. A new type of adventure set in an open world that offers more freedom to choose what to do and where to go next, like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. There was a remake / remaster of a traditional Pokemon game, so like Diamond, Pearl, Ruby, Sapphire remakes. A new game similar to traditional Pokemon games with a set path through a world and a linear story, which they consider Red, Blue, and Sword and Shield like. But then there was another one, was like a new entry in an existing spin-off series. And their examples were Pokemon Mystery Dungeon and Pokemon Snap. And those ones specifically I could see why they would do, because they are wildly popular. Specifically Mystery Dungeon and Pokemon Snap, and even the recent ones sold really well, where they did the remake to Red and Blue Rescue Team and the new Pokemon Snap. And a lot of people are getting really excited just from seeing this in a survey, because it almost seems that Nintendo is listening. Just a little bit.
Yeah. What about Detective Pikachu? Does that count?
Oh, they're already making another Detective Pikachu. It's almost done.
Right.
We talked about that last time, but
Yeah.
I assume that would be in the category of a new entry in existing spin-off series. But it is nice that they're asking, because clearly, and this didn't come from the Pokemon Company, they're not the ones that issued this survey, it came from Nintendo. Clearly, they see that there is a lot of, I guess, infighting, but the audience is disputing with each other over Pokemon games, and some of them are getting a lot more mixed reactions than they did previously. I mean, you've always had your haters, the people that we called them Gen 1ers that only really like the original Pokemon game, and maybe the second, and then they just complain about everything that isn't Pokemon 1. That's why we call them Gen 1ers. But Pokemon Sword and Shield was probably the most divisive Pokemon game out of all of them, because there was people who kind of really liked it, but there was also a lot of people that are like, please stop with your bullshit. And you've seen almost the release of every game since then has been like that. And it's because they'll do some cool things, but then they'll like drop the cool things they were doing before and replace it with some lame stuff, when they could have just added some of the cool things to the cool stuff they were doing before. And it seems like they don't know what to do with their games to at least please the most amount of people. And that's what they used to be good at, is doing the thing that already pleased the most amount of people. And putting a survey like this out is probably like their way of like sticking their ear to the ground and figuring out the actual direction of things.
Yeah. Well, it's a very vocal fan base. I'd say there's
Very big fan base, probably the biggest fan base.
Yeah, and it's it's one of those, I think, unique situations where the fan base is so big and so diverse that everyone on every side is kind of a real fan, quote unquote. So it's probably difficult to figure out, like, okay, but what do the most people want? Like,
Yes.
how can we make at least? We can't make everyone happy, but how can we make the largest number of fans happy?
And you can't specifically ask them what they want, right? And this is why I think a survey like this is good. Because it depends on how you frame the question, especially because even a lot of the fans know that they don't entirely know what they want. They just kind of know what they don't want, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times they'll add a cool new thing. You're like, man, I didn't even know I wanted this. But that's fine. But you kind of know what you don't want them to add. So by asking it in questions like this, it's like, okay, what games did you like? When we did do something new, which new thing did you end up liking and stuff like that? And that'll inform them more on, like, if they want to innovate, where can they innovate? Where should they not innovate specifically? Like, what's the stuff that holds the audience to the game? And I think this is actually a healthier way of running research than just having people fill out, like, an open questionnaire. It's like, well, that didn't really give me any useful information at all.
Right. Yeah, well, hopefully the outcome of that will lead to something good.
Yeah, I hope
What's
so.
funny is, like, if it, like, does make them, help them make a decision on their direction for, like, a specific game, we won't know about it until
The game
like 3 or
comes out.
4 years from now. Yeah. It's like, if they're going to be like, oh, okay, well, this is the game, the direction we should go in. It takes like 3 or 4 years to make these games, I'm sure. So.
Yeah, well, that's the worst part, right? It's like with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Any other company, I would tell them, hey, don't give me too much information about your game until it's almost out, because I really only want information about the finish, like what's going to be in the finished game. Let's
Right.
not get God, who is the guy who did Fable? I can't remember his name, but let's not get Fable syndrome, where the creator will, like, tell you everything that he wants to be in Fable 2, and then, like, as if it's going to be in it, and then maybe like 10% of it ends up in Fable 2, and none of the stuff that you actually wanted. And then, like, here's all the stuff that's going to be in Fable 3, and the whole time you should have really just had the developers talking about it, because they're the ones that actually know what they can and can't put in the game. So that's usually my advice. But Pokemon, on the other hand, is like the biggest franchise ever. And by giving us a taste of what you might want in the game, might actually give you good feedback of, like, no, that sounds terrible. Please don't put that in the game. And you're like, okay, we walk this back in between now and then. Like, there might be the one company where it's smart to kind of piss some people off early, so you can be like, oh, no, we've changed it since the last time we've talked.
Yeah.
And then
Kinda
people are
like-
like, oh, wow, you listened to us. And then the people you pissed off are even more likely to buy the game.
Yeah. Kind of like how people think that the creators of the Sonic movie, screwed up the design on purpose, and then
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Because I know Sega, and Sega is wildly incompetent, right? It's Sonic Team even more so. Nobody's destroyed Sonic more than Sonic Team, right?
Yeah.
So I think when they saw the design for Sonic, they're like, sure, it looks enough like Sonic. They can't even decide, to Chris Chan's displeasure, whether Sonic should have tan or blue arms, So it's like, they probably signed off as, like, it's an American movie, it doesn't matter, it looks close enough. And then when the fan backlash happened, like, yo, dudes, you got to change this.
yeah. All right, I'm gonna try and turn on the video. It might crash Discord. Let me try.
Okay, well, we'll wait for you.
Hey there.
Hey, there you are. Good break in the conversation. Say hello to Cross Comics and Wuhan Fishmonger in the chat. salutations. Rick and I will actually be on a show after this one over at the Matriarchy for our Comic Creators Club. And he is on more as a guest because one of the two comics we'll be talking about is the Canadian Shield #1. Alongside Sporkman Goes to Japan. It's kind of like a review show in a way, a critique show, mostly just positive critique. It's not about like bashing people or anything like that. So it'll be a fun little time. Cool. Sometimes we'll do like a dub from the people on the panel of the first like 5 pages of the comic or whatever. I don't know if we'll do all 5 because I reread the Canadian Shield last night, and the first 5 pages are pretty wordy. Which, I mean, it's not a problem. I like wordy comics. It's just a problem when you're trying to dub it. I don't think there's actually any scripture in the first 5 pages, but I do remember there's scripture in the book, and scripture gets pretty wordy.
Speaking of comics,
yeah,
you won't guess. You'll never guess what I got in the mail today.
I probably won't guess.
First issue of Obsidian.
Oh, hey, that's cool.
By Shabby and English Nachos. I
knew they were working on something else. I completely forgot they were working on something that wasn't Vestry.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't even had time to unwrap it, but it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty decent. Probably going to reflect too much, but yeah. Got that, and one other comic, but I don't know if I should show it.
Is it the type that'll get us flagged because of the cover?
Nah.
Okay.
I'll just go ahead.
As long as there's not like bare breasts or vag on there, I don't really care.
No.
Yeah.
It's
or dick. I don't want dick on the screen either. Hey, that's cool.
It's a comic by my good friend John Delarose. Blunder Island, the Zero of Right Water.
Yep, and clearly Zelda parody right there.
Yeah.
With Link on the front. Yeah.
And parody of another comic creator that some people might recognize, but we won't say the name. But yes, it is a parody comic that I just got, and it's looking good. Oh, and the art on this one is by The Quaff.
The Quaff. Yeah. I like JDA, but man, that guy lives off of drama. That's like his entire life.
Oh yeah, he loves it. It's almost like he enjoys getting blacklisted from various different.
Oh no, for sure he has to.
He's like, oh,
it's
all
like
I did was
a whiteboard. This is places I've been banned from, and he just adds another one.
Yeah. He's like, what? All I did was go into a Facebook group for board games or whatever and just say hi. That's all I did. I'm like,
and then it shows the screenshot and turns him going into a belligerent frenzy about like feminists destroying this idea before anybody even brings anything up.
Yeah. Or I might have said something about homosexuality being a sin, but no. Just normal stuff. Oh, John. He just loves to rile people up. So wait, I see you sent me a thing about Pokemon, getting back to Pokemon.
Yes. So they showed off a new Pokemon today.
Yeah, what's that all about?
It was today. And it's called Wiglett. So at first, they saw this Pokemon come out of the ground. Before it came out, it just a little peak, and it looked like a very pale Diglett. But then it just kept coming out of the ground. And this long worm came up. And like the professor is like, oh, look, it's a different form. Oh, wait, no, it's not a different form. It's a different species. And it's like a Wiglett. And people thought at first it was going to be a variant of Diglett like they've been doing since Sun and Moon, where they have like the Alolan forms. And what's the name of this area? Paldean. So they thought it was going to be a Paldean variant, but it's like, no, it's an actual different Pokemon called Wiglett, which I thought is cool because it's actually showing off specialization. It's like, yeah, these two Pokemon are close. They were clearly once the same thing, but these aren't just breeds. They're different Pokemon. The not so cool thing, though, right, I guess it's cool, is it finally confirms what type of creature Diglett is supposed to be. Because you could have always easily argued it should have been a worm, because it pops out of the ground, and you never see any limbs or anything. But it only ever shows you a heads amount, period, right? Even with the Dugtrio. Dugtrio kind of even more leans, because the one in the back would have to have a really long neck compared to the other two. But a lot of people would argue for the longest time that based on the skin color, the big red nose and everything, that it was supposed to be a parody of a star-nosed mole. And it kind of would have worked if you had just left Diglett as only a head sticking out of the ground. But now that we see Wiglett, which is a long worm, it pretty much just confirms Diglett was an earthworm the entire time. The only reason he has a nose is because he's a Pokemon, and some cartoonish things have noses.
Yeah. Man, there's like a story on this on USA Today.
Wow.
Like, really? They're covering that?
And I think another thing that shows is that it's not just a variant, because Diglett is already in the game. So it would be really weird to have the Pokemon in the game and a regional variant of the Pokemon in the game. So you can get both Diglett and Wiglett.
It's so weird looking. It's like, ew, it looks like a maggot. It's all
Yeah,
white.
but it's just a bit. Well, I mean, it's kind of pinkish white. But like, have you seen how flesh toned an earthworm is?
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't know. This looks like whiter. You want me to show you the
It's
video?
just a Diglett without a tan, okay? That's all it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can show it.
Let's speed this up, actually, because it seems to be pretty slow, but... Ew. Showing them on a beach. Was it this blurry?
I have no clue.
Does it zoom in or something? Here we go. Yeah, look, they're so freaky looking.
Yeah, they kind of just... At first, they just look like Digletts whose heads are kind of like bending over, but...
Yeah, they got little pink noses.
Yeah. But that also shows like the big difference, because Diglett's face is not on the front of it, or if it was a worm, it's not on the actual front, it's on the bottom, which some worms are like that, actually. Some of them do have mouths on the sides of them instead of in the front.
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, because normally it's like, yeah, it's on the side, but this one's kind of
actually facing
tilting
forward like a worm should.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, fast forward a bit. Very strange and creepy.
Worms are kind of like straws when you think about it, and they're just like from the front of their ingestion to the end of their digestion is just one straight tunnel.
Yeah, pretty much. So how do you get these things? I mean, how do you evolve into these?
No, I don't think you evolve into them.
Oh.
I think like Diglett, they're a base form.
Oh.
So what the bigger question is, do they evolve? And if they were once the same species as Diglett, do we just get like a weird twist version where three of them are like snaking around each other, like a Hydra? That would be cool. Do we get a Wig Trio?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is it a Wig Trio? I mean, what's really it says it's not a regional variant, but what's the difference?
Well, the difference would, one, come down to the fact that there are Diglett already in the region, right? But a regional variant takes up the same slot in the Pokedex, right? Like whatever the number is, it would be the same number. This would be a different slot, and it would be like wolves and dogs are the same species, right?
Yeah.
But a jackal is not Canis lupus. It's one of the few other species of dogs in the world. So that would be the equivalent too. They were once the same species, but they are different species.
Yeah. Gotta stop sharing here.
Yeah. Let's double clicked. You were big on the screen for a second.
Well, cool.
Yeah. But see, that's one of those innovations where that's a change to Pokemon I actually want to see. I think it's one of those cool things where Pokemon, admittedly, is really, really bad with the concept of evolution, even though it's like the main concept of the game. But this is actually part of how evolution works. So it's nice to introduce these things to possibly a younger audience in a fun way. Where it's like, oh, well, we've introduced variants before, which are kind of like breeds of animals. Well, now we're showing you something that looks like it could have been a variant. No, it's actually a different species. So, like, I think you need playful ways of introducing complex concepts to children.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they got to come up with new ideas somehow.
Yeah. I think that's all I have for Nintendo and Pokemon related stuff.
All right.
Oh, here's one that I thought was lame. Just absolutely lame. Understandable, but lame. So, Atlas, creators of SMT and spin-off series Persona, is suing the fans who resurrected their abandoned MMO Shin Megami Tensei Imagine, which has been gone for 6 years now. I was surprised it was still running for that long, honestly. I remember playing Imagine back in high school on my first laptop that I got, and I stopped playing it after high school, and I thought the game had died. Because it's, even where it was like 2007 or 8 or when I was playing it, it felt more like a game that had come out in 2002, like Final Fantasy 11 or something like that. And it was fun. I enjoyed it. It was a hardcore game where, like, you know, if you died, you might lose experience and stuff like that. And it played like an SMT where you did a wrong move and you might be crit even if you're 10 levels higher than the thing and die, or you have to like figure out the personality of the thing you're fighting so you can kind of convince it to stop fighting, maybe join your team, things like that. And apparently it ran up until 6 years ago. Then they just shut the servers down, and these fans managed to resurrect it. And there's been a private server for a while. I've been tempted to play it. I learned about it either late last year or early this year. I forget exactly when. And the only reason I didn't is because I'm playing too many old MMOs as it is to jump into yet another old MMO. Because if you don't recall, I'm sure you do, but people in the audience, old MMOs were way more time consuming than modern MMOs were. Like anything before 2010 or 11. You basically had to dedicate either like 3 to 4 hours every day if you wanted to progress, or if you weren't going to play that, you had to dedicate your entire Saturdays and Sundays to progressing. Like that was it. Like you had to set time aside to progress through the games. It's not like Final Fantasy 14 where you could progress through it at an okay rate at like setting aside an hour or two a night, and you're just like, fine, I'm getting through the story, I'm progging. Old MMOs were demanding. Yeah. And this is a very, very demanding game. And they're suing, and I get it. You know, it's their property. They have to defend it, but you only have to defend it if you're aware of it, right? You can feign ignorance. It would have been really cool of them to just ignore the kids playing in the empty field behind their house that they're not using anyway.
Well, why didn't they? I mean, did they send a cease and desist, and they refused to turn it off, or? I mean,
I'm guessing. So the actual thing is the host of the servers were sent a letter detailed in court documents that it is in blatant violation of U.S. copyright law by their own admission with zero authorization, and they've decided to resurrect this game against Atlas's wishes.
Yeah.
Which might even, it makes it sound like maybe the reason they knew who did it is because they've asked already before doing it and then decided to do it anyway.
I mean, you usually don't just file a lawsuit.
Yeah.
In fact, most states, I don't think you can just do that. You have to
send a notice first or something. Yeah.
You have to tell them, basically send a cease and desist or, a copyright notice, tell them they're in violation and that they can do this such and such in order to make up for it, to basically turn off the servers or else kind of a thing. So they must have done that first.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that people
here's
didn't.
The bigger thing on how they got them, right? So a lot of people who resurrect games like this, what they do is they will take the client side package and they will spend years trying to basically reverse engineer the server side, effectively almost like creating the game again from scratch, right? Not full because you have the client assets, but you kind of have to like figure out all the server end stuff yourself. Some of it's easy because it's just what anybody would do with a server. Some of it might be a little more complicated to figure out because it's like the habits of the in-house developers and how they do things. But that's not what they did, apparently. Apparently, they distributed a near exact copy of not just the game, but the website in which they people originally communicated and downloaded the game. So what they did was they scrawled the old website and they pulled everything they needed about the server off the site because it was apparently there, and they just repackaged the website.
Yeah.
So it's not even there's like much original assets aside from translating the last like 4 years of the game that weren't in English.
Mm. Well, yeah, if they're distributing copies of the game like that,
yeah,
then I think you go straight to the lawsuit.
Yeah, it seems like it's not even like a weird kind of workaround. It does seem like it's just direct infringement.
Yeah.
It may not be,
but
that's what the court case says. So that it's up to them to disprove it in court. It's like, no, we did most of the work ourselves, which still might have to force them to shut it down. But maybe they won't be liable for money due to violations or anything like that.
Yeah, but that's more like somebody just outright distributing bootleg copies of record albums or whatever.
Yeah.
Then if you have proof that they did that, then I guess going straight to the lawsuit makes more sense now.
Yeah. So. Which I just don't get it. Not just I get this like how they're handling it, but like rewinding the clock, I don't get it.
Yeah.
If somebody came to me, I made an MMO and like I'm not running it anymore, right? Like our company's not. And they're like, hey, can we host servers for it? I would do similar to what Square did when they originally thought they might have been shutting down Final Fantasy XI. I would just create a server package, be like, sure, here's a link to it on our website. Here's an officially sponsored package. You can use this, no problem. We just can't host it on our servers anymore. That's what I would do, because if somebody really likes something, I don't want to stop them from enjoying. But that's not what Atlas decided long before this part.
Yeah. Yeah, like a bunch of fans made, before Warcraft Classic came out, World of Warcraft Classic or whatever, fans basically did that. They created their own servers, and you could connect to it with a sort of standard, or I don't know how that worked. I don't remember. I guess they must have had some sort of download.
Yeah, there's still stuff, because you could still play like Turtle WoW, which is a way of playing like vanilla without playing classic and things like that. It has its own downloader. I think pretty much everything on the server side was created from scratch, figuring out the old things. The client side, obviously, they were able to just use a very old distribution of WoW, but they're still out there. You can get all of that information from old battle chests that have the discs where all the client side information was on disc. If you have a CD reader, there you go. They just had to figure out all the server side information on their own, which is that's when things get a little buggy, because you're like, okay, hopefully this works. Then you have to send a report. It's like, okay, we're going to go back and try to figure out why that quest wasn't working.
Yeah. I mean, doesn't the server keep track of all like NPC schedules and all the quests and stuff?
But that's the easy stuff to keep track of. Then there's the thing about like executables and stuff. So even if like the quest is on schedule the way it's supposed to be procced by talking to this NPC, then there's the matter of, is the event executing as it's supposed to? Now, a lot of it dialogue easy. Drops and stuff, sometimes that's where things can start to get difficult when it comes to quests. NPCs accepting drops can sometimes get difficult, and that's where you kind of have to like recreate things from scratch and figure out like, well, that's easy though, because you don't necessarily have to figure out how the WoW team did it. You just have to find a way to make it work.
Yeah.
That's where it comes out, and that's also where it kind of becomes your own thing. It's like, no, look, this section doesn't even look the same as yours, because we actually found a better way to make it work, because yours way might have been kind of stupid, because you had to build it off of like 5 different patches of how things worked before.
Mm-hmm. It seems to me that at least the WoW project that I was thinking of from many years ago, I think they just ended up getting essentially a cease and desist letter from Blizzard, and they had to shut it down, because it was like, well, if you don't, then we'll sue you. But I don't think they ever did actually sue them for it, but I think they basically had got them to stop. Interesting. Probably mostly because they decided they wanted to just do a classic version.
I think that is the case. You see a lot of these bigger companies kind of let things slide until they decide to do their own version of the game. Now, Atlas here, I don't think it's because they're deciding to relaunch Shin Megami Tensei Imagine. I don't think that's the case. I think it's partially because this might be a very clear-shut case of them distributing things they're not supposed to distribute. But I don't think they're bringing it back. With the demand, if they were going to bring it back, they would have done it already. Yeah, I remember when Nintendo issued a takedown to another Metroid 2 remake, AM2R. Yeah. And I was like, why are you doing that? And it was like, Samus Returns. Yeah, it was like, what? Not even a whole 6 months later, they announced Samus Returns.
Yeah, surprise.
We were just saving the announcement for the next game show.
That's right. It's funny.
Yeah. And, God, it just sucks. What would be cool, though, is after this lawsuit, if they decided to put out a official server package, right? Because this is a clear-cut case of them distributing things they're not supposed to. I completely get it. You gotta follow the legal procedure on this. But like, Atlas, just put out a server package. If you're not gonna host the game anymore, just officially let people host it. Because there's clearly a lot of people that still want to play this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nobody has any chill anymore. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Chill out.
Hell, I mean, I probably would only ever let them be, like, maybe an expansion or two behind. But, like, I'd have the mind to let people host their own smaller private server while I was still running an MMO. I'll just be like, no, you have to wait. You have to wait until we release the next expansion before I give you the package for the last expansion. Right? We got to make our money somehow.
Yeah.
But most private servers aren't even like these big ones like Eden in Final Fantasy XI that's got like thousands of people on it. Most of them, you're lucky if you even get to triple digits. It's usually like maybe there's 20 people who know each other on a private server together. and it's mostly NPCs running around.
Yeah, I'd almost like use it as a demo version. We've got the real official version over here, but if you want to play around with your friends on this little server over here.
Yeah. It's just know that none of your accomplishments really matter on the demo server because it's not hooked up to our website or anything like that. You're not sharing it around the world. Like you could say, hey, show your video. We beat this hard boss. Like that matters, but it's not like anything transfers over to the full version of the game.
Right. And you're not going to get all the latest and greatest content and all that.
Yeah, you have to wait. If you're fine with waiting, that's fine too. Like I have no problem rewarding patient people, you know.
Yeah. When we make games, it's gonna be so cool.
Yeah. Speaking of, I need to harass my guy because he said pre-production was only gonna take about a month for him to set anything up, but also he hasn't messaged me back at all to even ask more questions. Like I know the 2 sessions we did was not enough, so I'm gonna have to harass him heavily because I wanted to be working on this game already.
Yeah. There's a character creation process. I want there to be only 2 options, male and female.
Well, I mean there is going to be a character creation process.
Yeah.
And I was only planning on 2 options. Unless there is a unisex race, then obviously there will only be 1 option. But
it's a
that's
different race,
it.
or
Yeah.
different species. Did you
But
hear
the
how
human equivalent will only have male and female. And the way I want it to do is basically I want your 4 characters to be whatever 4 races you pick with the sex of that race, because it's going to have a job system. So that'll be the stuff that changes. But I kind of want that feeling that like the original Final Fantasy had, where you kind of picked your 4 jobs at the beginning.
Yeah. Well, did you hear Harvestella has a non-binary option?
I did. And at first, I thought this was entirely a bad sign. And then I realized one thing I was wrong about. This isn't the same group that makes Octopath Traveler or Triangle Strategy. It is being published under the same subsidiary of Square, but it's a different dev group than those people. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, okay. The people I like aren't the insane people.
Yeah. And, if it's a fantasy world where there's different species, completely different humanoid species, and they have different weird, aspects to them, like they're an entire non-binary species, or they're asexual or whatever, then fine. But
you could be asexual or unisex, which unisex is you only have 1 sex, but you can still interbreed between things. I think that's really what like a non-binary species would be, like mushrooms. Each mushroom has a different sexual composite, so you could say that there's like within a single species of mushroom, some of them have up to like 3,000 different sexes, but they're really all just unisex. Any mushroom can breed with any other mushroom through spores. Like you do things like that. I'm actually still pretty certain that the Asari from Mass Effect are mushrooms, by the way they work. Because what they do is they do a cloning, right? Which is what mushrooms do. Mm-hmm. They will basically launch their spore onto something else, or they'll touch the other thing, and it will imprint the DNA into it. So it won't actually be a sexual reproduction, and then that new altered DNA will then plant itself, right? And that's kind of like what the Asari do. They will kind of have intercourse, but they're not actually exchanging any genetic material through a traditional way, but through touch, they will kind of like take bits of genetic information and influence their next generation that way through kind of like a cloning method. So you could do things like that. You could also have a more complicated species like how colony species work, where ants or bees technically have 3 genders. They're still kind of 2 sexes, but they have 2 sets of chromosomes for sex, where one is kind of like an on-off thing for it. So you've got like the queen, which is female. You've got her mates, the people that serve her directly. The ones that breed with her, they will take food and carry it to the young, but they're the ones that stay inside her nest, which are all male, and they're very tiny compared to the rest of the ants. And then you've got the drones, which are all technically female, but they have another code that is basically an off switch. So the sex there would be neuter, right? Like a eunuch.
Yeah.
And in some cases, if there's no queen or queen replacements available, chemical induction can actually turn a neuter back into a female because they still have the genetic material for that. Yeah, so you could have a whole race like that where they kind of work male, female, neuter. Because all male and female means is the fertilizer and the fertilizee. Hermaphroditic races can be like that too. That'd be close to the unisex. There are slugs that kind of fence with each other, and the loser gets penetrated by the other. So then they take the role of the female for breeding. That's a real thing that happens in the ocean. Like, there's all kinds of interesting things you can do when you're dealing with non-human species, but when you're dealing with humans, on the other hand, we've actually only have two options, unless you choose to become a eunuch. That's the only actual viable other option there.
Indeed.
Which I guess technically you could say there are 4 genders. There's male, female, male eunuch, female eunuch, because a male and female eunuch would serve a different purpose in a society.
I guess.
Yeah. But I mean, it's still binary, right? Because it's the binary, and then it's the 2 different versions of opting out of the binary.
Yeah. Yes. So did you hear there's a new Dungeons and Dragons Dragonlance novel?
I did not. Did they release it to coincide along with the one D&D test stuff that they're doing? Because I know a lot of what D&D does is when something new's coming out, they'll try to put a lot of new stuff out at the same time, like a content burst.
I think it's a coincidence.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, because I knew this was in the works for many years. It's the original 2 authors, Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman, who did the Dragonlance Chronicles back in the day.
Dragonlance has always been really good.
Yeah.
So and it kind of takes place in an older version of the world, like the Forgotten Realms and stuff, because it's just a continuous story that's been going on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a completely different world, though. It doesn't take place in Forgotten Realms.
Oh, I thought it did.
No, it's a different world.
What's the name of the world that takes place in?
Kryn.
Kryn. Okay.
Kryn.
So it's its own sphere. I always thought it took place in just a far off part of the Forgotten Realms.
No.
Oh, okay.
Completely different. Because they don't have halflings; they have Kender instead. And I guess and I don't believe Forgotten Realms has Draconians. They have Dragon Kin, but
no, they also have Draconians.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, you can blame the 4th edition for that.
Oh.
Yeah.
They must have brought them over, because I'm pretty sure they originated in Dragonlance.
Well, this is also why people are very pedantic, that they consider every edition of the Forgotten Realms its own world, right? Like, they consider 3rd edition Forgotten Realms, 4th and 5th, all different spheres, because they just kind of retcon things all the time with it, so... Yeah.
So Dragonlance takes place on a completely different sphere.
No,
I guess. But they made the Dragonlance Chronicles. I think came out in the 80s, and then there's dozens and dozens of books. But then there was a big long hiatus for 20 years, I think.
Okay.
There was no new books, and then there was they had a weird thing with Wizards of the Coast where I thought. They had a contract to write new books, but then, Wizards, tried to break the contract, and then I guess they maybe sued Wizards. I don't know the whole story, but they ended up publishing it. Actually, this
I'm trying
came
to
out
figure out why they would want to break the contract, though. right?
So
Because
it's just
especially if it's its
stupid.
own sphere, right? It's not like you
Yeah.
can make the thing like, oh, this is not representative of what we want to do with D&D now. It's like, well, I mean, it takes place in like each sphere, its world. They don't really talk about space or whatever, but it's kind of its own universe that's separated by this outer space of everything. Things can happen in that world, and it doesn't have to reflect what you're currently doing. That's the whole point to having all these different spheres. Like,
And as far as I know, there have been no like 5th edition Dragonlance modules or anything like that.
yeah, I don't think so.
They completely abandoned the whole, that universe. But anyway, they came out with it eventually. So whatever their legal dispute was, I guess it was resolved.
Yeah.
So it's called Dragons of Deceit, Dragonlance Destinies Volume 1. So presumably there's going to be more.
Yeah. I typically don't see people using Volume 1 unless you plan there at least being a Volume 2.
Yeah. Yeah, like almost all of I guess not all. Most of the other Dragonlance series, there have been 3 volumes. Some of them there's been 6. So like there's, Chronicles and like Legends and Stories and blah, blah, blah. They keep naming weird things like that. But yeah, it looks pretty decent. In fact, I didn't even know it was coming out until somebody tweeted about it earlier today.
Yeah.
Saying I picked up my copy. I was like, oh my gosh.
Now I know some of the older ones have it, but especially if they're going to continue publishing, they need to get audiobooks for it right away.
Oh.
Because I would like to get back into Dragonlance, right?
They've got it.
Oh, they do? Okay. I just need to make sure the whole series up to date is, because I never got all the way through, and it is they're not short books.
No.
Yeah, and I want to continue working while I'm going through them, so it'd be nice to listen to the books,
Yeah, you'd have to check out, whatever, Amazon,
Audible,
Barnes & Noble,
Amazon,
whatever.
all that stuff, yeah.
Yeah. But the new one definitely has an audiobook.
Should actually see if they might be cheaper on Google. Google, which I'm kind of upset that they discontinued Google Play as their main thing, but you can still listen to audiobooks and stuff through it. I had quite a few audiobooks through the old Google Play, and like I think it was re-listening through all of the Wizard of Oz because I picked up the entire series for like $10, and I mean, it's not that long. It takes like 18 hours to listen to the Wizard of Oz. It's like a good road trip right there, but it was a good way, and a lot of times they were having books on sale. I know Audible started doing regular sales when they partnered with Amazon, probably to compete with the sales that other places were doing. So maybe I'll check that stuff out.
Yeah. Well, I would definitely recommend anyone looking to get into it. The Chronicles and Legends are kind of the 2 trilogies that sort of make up the main storyline. The others are kind of side quests.
Yeah.
Optional side quests. Although actually there's a 4th Chronicles that came out with a couple decades later. At any rate.
It's better D&D stuff.
Yeah, it's good
Oh,
stuff.
because I saw some of the one D&D stuff that they're doing, which is technically, it's test content. It's stuff that they plan on possibly putting in the game. It's like Unearthed Arcana, but a little more official than Unearthed Arcana. And some of it's just like, they're such dumb rules that I would have to like house rule out anyway. Because some of them, they're testing things that were common house rules that I always thought were dumb. Like one of them is D20 rolls, where the 1 always botches and the 20 always crits, regardless of like DC or
right.
any different factors or whatever. It's like it's always a critical miss or critical hit, which I think is stupid. I mean, you can work around that, and you just like as you should anyway. If you think a character really should be able to do something, just don't make them roll. Let them do it.
Yeah.
If you think a character really shouldn't do something, just don't let them roll. Don't let them do it. But like, yeah, your character strains themselves trying because you're an idiot. But it stops you from being able to let the player test the world, like get a feel for things by hiding impossible stuff behind high DCs. Because even if you give them like, I don't know, in the modern games you have what's the word? When you're good at something. Proficiency, that was the word I'm looking for, yes. I do not like the modern proficiency systems because they just stack on. But in the modern games, you have like a proficiency system where, especially if like you're a bard or something that gets bonus, you can get up to like +5 on a roll on top of whatever your actual modifier is. It's stupid. You're really only supposed to get like a +1 at any point in time with proficiency due to skills. But like you can like milk it for like a +5 plus bardic inspiration. It's all stupid, and like you're gonna have to hide it behind like a DC of 27 if you really don't want somebody to do something. But then it doesn't matter because like if they land on 20, they get it anyway. If that's your rule, and I'm like, no, I'm not about that. That's why like when we played too the one session, I even outright told you guys like we're not using the proficiency system. If I think your character should or shouldn't, or like I'll judge based on what your character should be able to do, and I will give you a 1 through 20 DC on it, and then you have to beat that in a roll. I like that better. That's like the old AD&D way of doing things. I think that's how you should do it. It's like, okay, you're a half orc, pretty strong, and you have to move a boulder that only really weighs as much as like 2 people. I'm gonna give you a DC of 15. I think you can do it, but it might be a struggle. You might trip and hurt yourself, so we'll give it a shot. I think that's fair. You've got like a 1 in 4 chance of actually failing. Or no, sorry, 1 in 4 chance of succeeding.
Right.
3 in 4 chance of failing in that. But all the I looked at it. I really think most of the 1D&D stuff is stupid that they're doing, and I think it's because this is stuff they're really trying to test for the next edition, which they're planning to basically be the last edition of the game, where they just keep updating this in perpetuity.
Right.
And that's why they're calling it 1D&D.
I feel like a lot of different companies have said that about a lot of different things.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of them should though. Like there's certain things where you really should just have the one version that gets updated. I don't know if tabletop's necessarily the best way to do that. And that's thinking from an audience perspective. A lot of people get really comfortable with a certain way to play, and I think having different editions and rule sets allow people to pick the way they want to play. Like, you can always offer new ones. That's why I actually really don't mind that 4 plays kind of so utterly different from everything else, because it's like, okay, I think it's stupid. If people want to play that rule set, they can. I'm just going to go back to, like, 3.5 or whatever.
Yeah. I feel like didn't Microsoft at some point say, you know, like Windows 7 was going to be the last one ever, or 10 was going to be the last one?
I think the first time they said that was actually Vista, but Vista was such a horrible failure that they kind of had to like brush that under the rug. And they might have hinted it with 7, but I think it was only a soft hint, if that, because of Vista. Like, you want to put more room. 8, definitely. Especially with 8.1, which was the real 9, it looked like they were trying to make Windows 8 work as the last Windows. That didn't work. 8 had its own failures. 10, honestly, it's fine. I have no reason to upgrade to 11 at this point in time. To me, 10 of modern Windows, which is like everything after XP, 10 is, I'm going to actually say it's the best. It's really close with 7. 7 had its own problems at the beginning that a lot of people didn't know of because they didn't beta test 7. Everybody, whether they knew it or not, was beta testing 10 because they just kind of gave it for free during the beta period. But now it works pretty well. I don't know. It and 7 are about the same. I have a lot of the same problems with 7. they're not going to be like XP or 98, which are like just golden operating systems that, despite the limitations because how old they are, for the most part still kind of hold up today. Like a lot of people are still using XP.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, it seems like
XP should have been their last
the
operating
best
system.
Yeah, really. Seems like the best made plans of, well, this is going to be the last version. We'll just have minor updates. But,
Well, I think that's the problem, though, is even if you did minor updates, you could just bork your whole system to the place that, like, people don't enjoy it anymore. Because it's like the Theseus ship. How many updates till you replace everything to it that it's no longer the same thing?
Yeah, and eventually you're like, okay, we've cobbled this together for years and years. We need to just start over again, you know?
Yeah, and then that's where you get your next edition. And actually, that's, I think for D&D, that's where 4th edition came from. I like 3rd edition. 3rd edition's probably my favorite. It's either that or a D&D. 2nd edition's honestly still really close. Like, all of the 3 first editions were pretty good. But 3.5, with all the great things it added, just kept adding stuff. And adding, and it became like this mess. Have you ever seen people make jokes about, like, you have an entire, like, pamphlet just for grappling rules and stuff like that? And that's because they just kept adding more stuff to the system, and it was all official. So if you wanted to play the rules properly, you had to keep getting all this officially added stuff, and your players would want it, and they would want you to have to learn it as a DM too. So you had to at least get the gist of all the grappling rules so you would know how to index it when the situation came up. And it just became a mess. So they did 4th edition, which was very short-lived because for good reasons, and then 5th edition. And 5th edition started out really, really simple. It was actually really easy to make a character at the beginning of 5th edition. Now it takes like half an hour to make a character, and it's becoming the same mess that 3.5 was, and it might be time for another edition. And that's the problem when you just keep adding on to things indefinitely.
Yep. I feel like the first time I made a character in 5th edition, it took me a good hour and a half.
Yeah, it takes fucking forever, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, if we played AD&D, we could roll up a character in like 5 minutes and be in the game.
Yeah, really. And I had like an expert like walking me through the step and the process, and he's like, "Okay, now flip to this page. Okay, now flip back to this page. Now flip back." Like, what? Why isn't there just a step-by-step process? He's like, well, you got to go over here and pick from this and pick from that.
A lot of people will use like apps to help them, right? Where it'd be like, okay, you still have to transfer this onto your sheet, but like as you're going through, the app is a step-by-step process. Pick your feats, you'll have a drop down and stuff like that, and it'll speed up the process, but it still takes like 30 minutes with an app, you know?
Yeah.
That's also why I've changed my thoughts on it too. I'll look at you and say 3rd edition is my favorite, and 3rd edition is better than 3.5 because there were substantial changes when they did 3.5, and 3.5 is kind of just like everything that was added on and later. It's like no, 3rd edition was better before all that stuff was added to it.
Yeah.
I can make a character in 3rd edition like 5 to 10 minutes. I don't care. Like that's not hard. 3.5, it's probably going to take as long as 5th edition to make a character.
Yeah.
And you want characters, especially D&D. Like, I think this is the reason why nobody dies in D&D anymore, is because how fucking long it takes to make a character. Well, like in AD&D, you're just like, whatever, my character died. We're gonna go take a break for restroom and snacks, and we come back. I'll spend the first couple minutes making a new character. You can meet him next time you get in town.
I'll make a new character while I'm in the bathroom.
Yeah. It's like, Why is there a brown stain on your paper? You didn't have any TP. I'm going to work through it.
That's my character.
Yeah.
Stinks.
The Golgothan from Dogma. That's the shit demon. That's my character.
Yeah.
Oh man, can you imagine like the enemy has to keep making DM saving throws because they can smell your character. Does psychic damage to them because it's like breaking their will.
There's just a constant stinking cloud around you.
And if they come within like 15 feet of their character, it's like the equivalent of guardian angels for the cleric, except it's just always around you. So if they like get into the range or they move while in that range, they have to make a saving throw.
Yeah. Silly.
That was the other thing too. Like you didn't need all of this shit in old D&D because like it was so simple that if you wanted to homebrew something, it was really easy for the DM to just give you a pro and a con so it was balanced. To be like, okay, we don't need a separate class for samurai. You could just be a fighter that wears like Japanese armor and has a katana, and I'll give you, I don't know, -1 to strength, but +1 to dexterity because you're supposed to be more of like a dex character, and then boom. You're a samurai. If I really need to change one of your feats or one of your skills later, we can, but you're a samurai now. Like, it was really easy to just give people what they wanted and make it fair in older versions because you didn't have to, like, worry about all these other different rules that were interacting with shit.
Yeah. I feel like they had to dumb it down for people or something
Yeah.
at some point. Oh, you want a samurai? Here's all the rules for samurai.
Yeah.
Don't try to think them up yourself. Well, we'll do that for you.
It's like, oh, and because you're a samurai and that's where jiu-jitsu comes from, let's bring back the entire pamphlet for grappling because you're going to need that in this game.
Yep. Silly.
Grappling used to be easy. It used to just basically be a strength check. Like, you both did a strength check against each other. Whoever did better against their DC won. That was grappling. Easiest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Anybody could do it. Unless you're a thief. Then for some reason they would, or a monk that had the perk, you could use a dex check instead. But it would still be the same check. You were just using a different stat for it.
Right. Doesn't seem like it should be that important.
It shouldn't. But you know what should be important?
What's up?
Silent Hill might be coming back.
Oh boy.
Yeah, which I love the franchise.
The game or the movie?
You know, I would not mind another movie if it was in the right hands. The first one, I thought was actually really good. I wouldn't say it's a great adaptation, but it captured the spirit of what the game was supposed to be. The plot was just kind of odd, even as far as Silent Hill goes. I would like a proper adaptation that captured the spirit too. That would be cool.
I don't know that I ever was there. How many were there? 2?
I think
or
there was
more?
2 different Silent Hill films.
I don't think I ever saw the second one.
Yeah, they were completely unconnected. They were 2 different adaptations of Silent Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I know Pyramid Head was big and imposing, and that was one of the most important parts of it. And almost everything in it was actually based off of something from the game. It had like the weird janky nurses and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's a game. And it was an unannounced Silent Hill game called Silent Hill: The Short Message. And the only reason we found out about it is through a rating boards leak because somebody noticed that in South Korea, which they have, what was it? The Game Rating and Administration Committee is what they called their board. So the GRAC had it rated, which I actually don't see the rating in this list at all. You think if, oh cool, I'm bleeding. Nosebleed! I'll be right back. Let me go get a paper towel. But yeah, they don't actually have the rating anywhere.
I'll read this. So yeah, here's an article from Dexerto, however you pronounce that. Mysterious Silent Hill: The Short Message game confirmed after leaks. Age rating for Silent Hill: The Message recently surfaced in Korea, suggesting leaked details about a new game may be true. Let's see here. There's a leaker named Dust Column that leaked some art pieces earlier. Claimed Konami had multiple Silent Hill adventures in the works. And then they received an age rating from the Game Rating and Administration Committee of Korea. So they've submitted something. Says the Korean age rating could serve as a hint that the wait may soon come to an end. But yeah, I don't actually see what the rating is. So
I'm back.
All we have are
Powering through.
cool. So we do have a few.
Tissue in my nose, but we'll go. I'll tell you, it's like 90 right here, and it's probably actually even hotter in this spot because of my equipment. They're not on, but there's like arcade machines, extension cords, everything around me. Like this particular spot is probably 3 to 5 degrees hotter than the surrounding area, but we'll power through.
All right. Well, I mean, we're done.
Oh wow, I came back just at the end.
Yeah. I read this article about the, Silent
Oh,
Hill
you just
games,
read the
so
whole thing while I was gone?
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't much to it. But I think it's cool. I like Silent Hill. I'm excited. The last time we saw anything about Silent Hill was the playable test PT and by what's his name? Hideo Kojima of the Metal Gear, because he did a lot on Silent Hill as well. That got canned, and he left, so we haven't seen anything for Silent Hill since then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if there's a game for rating, that must mean that it's, close to done.
I would assume so. At least, because you have to have, I think, a full playable version. I mean, the graphics and everything don't have to be complete, but you have to basically have a full playable version of the game for them to rate it, because they have to be able to see everything in it.
Yeah. I would think so.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, cool. Yeah.
Can't wait.
Anyway, well, I guess that's the end of the show. Thank you
We're
all
done.
for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with somebody else who might like it. If you really enjoy the show, consider giving a donation to streamlabs.com/vomitorium live. I don't know, maybe
Send tissues.
Yes, send tissues. Send money for tissues. Tissue
Yeah.
fund or soda fund. I don't care, one or the other. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Oh, yeah, and if you're interested in comic stuff, check out The Matriarchy over on Matt Reese's channel in about half an hour. That's usually when that begins, and I'll be on there. Cross Comics will be on there. We'll have a good time. See you later.
Bye.
Hi besties, you're currently watching The Vomitorium. You can support the show at www.streamlabs.com/Vomitorium Live. Enjoy the show!
show you a magic tower.